Hi, Vince Lanza here. After a long day working at the Bearfoot Plaza Restaurant, I was wiping down the counter when Lisa, one of the servers, and I got to talking about mushrooms. I'd recently learned about chanterelles, but she mentioned something I'd never heard of: Japanese pine mushrooms. She said they grew around the Florence area too. A few days later, Lisa and her husband, Steve, invited me to go out looking with them. They took me to a spot that's now known as Rolling Dunes Park at 35th and Rhododendron Doctor, but back then it was just wild coastal country, scrub pines, manzanita, plenty of moss, and sandy soil. To find the mushrooms, we looked for small bumps in the moss beneath the pines, usually under clusters of trees about 6 inches wide or smaller. We crawled around on our hands and knees, gently feeling the moss for tiny raised mounds that hid the mushrooms underneath. It was slow work, but it felt like a treasure hunt. By the end of the day, the three of us had found about 8 pounds of mushrooms. We decided to split the haul 3 ways. Our first stop was next to Safeway, waiting for the mushroom buyer to show up. He shook his head and said, "I don't buy pine mushrooms." He did, however, tell us about a man down in Coos Bay who will buy them. So we headed south along Highway 101. When we arrived, we found a small building with a hand-painted sign and the rich, earthy smell of drying mushrooms in the air. Inside, we met a kind, soft-spoken Japanese man in his 60s. He used electric dehydrators to dry then package pine mushrooms for shipment back to Japan. He looked over our haul carefully. He was very picky. Only the unopened buttons were worth top price. The open-capped ones he passed over. He offered $35 a pound, and when it was all weighed out, we earned $140 for about 5 hours of work. Not bad for a day on the coast. Lisa and Steve handed me $40 as my share. "You earned it," Steve said with a grin. I remember thinking, 5 hours, $40, and a great adventure, can't beat that.